meeting. Seems like we're short a few people, but kind of expected with the rain. So let's see. Today's topic is homelessness, and Allison is here to help us with that from the city standpoint. And also CRC is here as well. I forgot your name, I'm sorry. John. So Allison, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah. I was also asked to give an update on outdoor dining, so I'll add that too, but maybe I'll start with that and then I'll go into homeless and then I'll feed right over to John. So excuse my glasses, but thank you. I had some help from city staff and putting together the important facts to share and updates. So outdoor dining. So in December 20th, we had the staff presented a proposal to City Council. And it's regarding, we included some information about the new state law, AB 1217, as well as some options, preliminary options from the coastal parking study, and some modifications to the current outdoor dining permitting processes. We did have a lot of residents and business owners come and speak, both for and against the outdoor dining. And so we had a lot of public comment, we had deliberation, and the council gave staff the following direction. I think it's probably good just to go through those because it's, it was a really robust dialogue. So the first was because of AB 1217 to extend the temporary outdoor dining to July 1st, 2026, or until a permanent ordinance is adopted and in effect, whichever comes first. We also talked about preparing a permanent outdoor dining ordinance and then requiring as part of that a leasing fee. So today, of course, the outdoor dining, it does not have a fee attached to it. It was done during the pandemic, of course, and that will change, right? So how do we put in a fee structure to start charging for any business that wants to continue to use it under the new ordinance? So that would be for public spaces, right? And not for sidewalk space. Developing design standards that include safety and aesthetics. We heard a lot of comment about that, that some of the outdoor dining structures were really well done, some were not. Some were not keeping it clean. It was shabby looking, etc. So trying to raise the bar on what it should look like across the city without requiring a uniform standard because each business is different. And then including no limit on the number of establishments per block, increasing the downtown parking limit from 2 to 3 hours. We got some feedback from the public about that. And right now we have Ace Parking that does enforcement for parking that's over 2 hours, but we heard some good feedback to, people can't do much in 2 hours, try to make it 3. And then removing inactive, unpermitted outdoor dining establishments and ensuring converted parking be used exclusively for seating rather than for, other purposes. There's 3 kinds of permits that are, issued. There's a temporary encroachment permit for public space, the temporary use permit for private space, and then sidewalk dining permits. And so the planning department is working with code enforcement and engineering to really review all of them to make sure, we're taking care of inactive or unpermitted establishments. And then making sure we have the right contact information. Sometimes a hard thing to keep current. And then they're looking into the design standards, the leasing fees, parking study, and they're going to come back to council in April in response to that council direction. So some progress there. And again, I think there's a wide opinion, some very much supportive of continuing it, some that have seen problems with it. So hope we get to a place where we can move forward in good order. Okay, homeless. I know the chamber had a homeless event that I did not attend just recently in January. So if some of this is repetitive, I apologize, but maybe it's just to ground everyone in what the city has been doing in response to homelessness and people experiencing homelessness. The city has a homeless action plan, and that was adopted back in February of 2021. That has a lot of different things, but some of the more probably important and successful pieces have been the HOPE team. That's HOPE stands for Homeless Outreach Program for Empowerment. And it is a partnership between the Sheriff's Department, San Diego Sheriff, and county social workers. So when there is a call or report about a homeless situation, they go out together. And the point being is to try to address it, not obviously if there's a crime being committed, that's an enforcement issue by our Sheriff's Department, but often it's not necessarily a crime. And it's about a person needing some service or assistance. And so having the social worker there, we've been successful at intervening and providing that service. The city's doing a nice job of trying to direct residents and others to, report any non-emergency homeless situation or issue on the My Encinitas app. It does get routed to the right place. And often, sometimes the issues come into email, they come to a specific council member or a staff member, but they don't always end up getting routed or addressed quickly enough. But the My Encinitas app is the fastest route, more efficient route. I guess the other update in 2023 was we hired a homeless solutions manager, Stephen Gonzalez, and we've had some really good progress with Stephen and Roland. So I'll cover two of those. I have a long list of statistics here, but Stephen has really dug in and tried to intervene. He came from the county. He is a social worker, so he's got a lot of experience in this space. And some of the highlights are, 81 people experiencing homelessness were successfully housed in rental units that were within their needs and budget. 20 accepted gainful employment, 36 placed in a temporary shelter, and 92 referred to community partners for their intake process and resources and assistance and funding for renting. And the list goes on. I think it's a really impressive year. Stephen's made some very, very good progress. And, he is responsible for giving the Homeless Action Plan updates. And so when those are on the council agenda, I encourage everyone to attend. The other big update with Stephen's help has been the Buena Creek Navigation Center. And so last fall, the council moved to pursue that with the city of Vista, enter into a MOU or Memorandum of Understanding. And really what that was about is to enhance the interim housing capacity. We don't have one here in Encinitas. This partnership with another city provides us some dedicated beds in a shelter. Vista has about 75% of that, and we have 25%. We did receive a significant grant, a permanent local housing allocation grant from the California Department of Housing and Community Development. And that is helping us get this navigation center operational. Vista also received a state grant through Senator Catherine Blakespear, and that helped us get the property and have it renovated to fit the needs of the navigation center. And it's due to open, I think, they're shooting for next month. On January 24th, at the last meeting we had, the council unanimously approved the center. Again, it's the first joint venture of its kind in North County. So we're really excited about that. Homelessness, in my opinion, is not a city issue. It's a region or much broader issue. So where cities can work together, we can make more traction, I think. And this is a really good example. So that center has 24 rooms, 48 beds, and it is a low barrier navigation center. So that's also important. So it will accept people who are having substance abuse issues to help them get the intervention they need. And I think that's right. We do have now a partner who will run the center and provide the services. So it's meant to be wraparound service center. And so we found a good provider to do that. And that is the latest from the city on homelessness. So thank you for having me speak. I'm excited that John was following. You know, again, any topic that's important to this group, we're glad to give updates. So appreciate it.
Good morning. I have some slides. I'll send them out later that provide some information, and I'll really begin starting at the place of dispelling rumors that, you know, are often propagated on sites like Nextdoor, the untruth about homelessness. I tackle that head on because there is a lot of lying going on Nextdoor about homelessness, what CRC does, right? How service providers attract, bringing people in, busing them in, and it's untrue. And so I do take exception when lies are told, and that bugs me. So the first thing I would share is around dispelling the myth about having a service provider in downtown Encinitas attracts the homeless to downtown Encinitas. And what we can do is, and I wish I had the graphic, I'll share the graphic with you. For all of our differences between the city of Carlsbad and the city of Encinitas, there's a great similarity between the village and downtown Encinitas. And everybody usually accepts that. And so in the city of Encinitas, and we use the point in time count, a perfectly imperfect system. And the good thing about it is it's consistently imperfect, right? And so it gives us relatively stable data, right? So the greatest number of people who are unsheltered homeless in the city of Encinitas are in and around downtown Encinitas. And CRC happens to be here, have been here since 1979, right? And then you see, you know, plot map where data is collected. The last one we have is from 2018, and I know it hasn't changed much, but you see a lot of the unsheltered homeless, you know, in and around downtown Encinitas, right? In the city of Carlsbad, you do the point in time count, right? They'll plot map people where they count the unsheltered homeless, and they're all in and around the village. However, all of the service providers are out off of Faraday Road and El Camino by the airport. So if we were to use these two like cities as an idea that services attract homelessness, then it would stand to reason that the plot map of where you would count unsheltered homeless in the city of Carlsbad would all be around the Interfaith office there and La Posada shelter. And so this notion that service provider attracts people to downtown Encinitas is not accurate. We're here because this is where the people are. The majority of people we serve are not unsheltered homeless. Majority of people we serve are people who are economically vulnerable, at risk of being homeless. And we're conveniently located to public transportation, both the rail and the bus corridor. And so that's a beneficial place for us to be. And yes, parking is terrible. That's life in a coastal community. I don't, you know, it's just part of the deal. And so I really want to take time to dispel that rumor, right? That service providers attract people, right? The second one is that we've seen a dramatic increase in homelessness in the city of Encinitas. And people say because CRC is here doing the services. If you do a 10-year survey of the point in time count and you add in last year, the average number of unsheltered homeless across the 10-year span has been about 86, 89 people. Now the census tracts that we help facilitate the point in time count for, Regional Task Force on Homelessness is responsible for that. We just facilitate a place where people can gather to go count our unsheltered neighbors. We include San Dieguito corridor. So some are Carmel Valley, Rancho Santa Fe, huge problem there. Del Mar, Solana Beach, and Encinitas. The majority of our unsheltered homeless in those census tracts do live in Encinitas, right? And there are some that are counted in Del Mar and some in Solana Beach, but the number progresses as you move north on the coast. And so this idea that there's been a dramatic increase in unsheltered homeless based on the data we have from the point in time count is unsubstantiated. We do know that the point in time count for unsheltered individuals is underrepresented of how many unsheltered homeless there actually are. And so that's a reality. A lot of people living in cars. Most unsheltered people you will not see or discover. If they're living in their cars, you probably wouldn't notice them other than their car is might be a little bit broke down, right? And so that's another kind of myth is there's not been a massive increase of unsheltered homeless in our these census tract. In fact, of all the county from last year's point in time count, North Coastal region is the only region in San Diego County where the count of unsheltered homeless went down. And you have cities like Encinitas, like Carlsbad, like Oceanside, being very proactive in intervention and diversion in creating solutions for unsheltered people. So last year we were unique in the county in terms of the number of unsheltered homeless going down, right? And so that's a feather in the cap of the work that the cities and the providers have done to address the issue. And the third thing that we acknowledge with you is, and we have seen an increase in challenging crisis behavior of people who are unsheltered. We see that too in our own corridor. We see that on the sidewalk in front of us. What are the causes of this? I can only speculate. Fentanyl is reaching lots of people. And substance use, right? And the things that go on with that, it affects people. And then you add to the last 2 years, 3 years of our life, the crisis of the pandemic. And you have people who are constantly living in crisis, right? And some of them have low coping mechanisms. And when they're in crisis, especially if they have a mental health issue, especially if they have a substance use issue, their skills for dealing with crisis go down. And so, yes, we've seen that happen. There are 2 times of years when we typically see a spike in these behavior issues, right? And these crisis behavior issues. One is around the holidays. And when we think about the weighted memory and importance of holidays across our own lives, right? And the season, plus you add in more darkness, more cold, more rain, right? More weather variables. You can see why the holiday season would be a time of greater depression, greater challenge, a sense of greater loss. People are disconnected and alone and afraid. And so we tend to see, right, as we work with folks, an increase in those kind of crisis behaviors. And so part of it is being mindful about what season it is and what's going on. The other season we see it is during the summer. Always happens. And what we also see during the summer is an increase in tourism, increase in visitors to town, and some of the places where our unsheltered neighbors will hang out because it's usually quiet are now populated. And so their normal patterns and their normal rhythms and, the kind of things they do to keep it low are interrupted, right? And again, so we see an increase in like, what do I do now, right? So more crisis added on unstable lives. And then, so those are just 2 mindful times when it happens, it's like, yep, those 2 times of years, we anticipate that. Now, I will say and acknowledge the one time of year we see some new folks kind of coming through town, right? And it's, people do travel, right? And that would also be in summer, right? And so we'll see some new folks coming by. right? But a majority, and I forget the percentage, a majority of people who are unsheltered in a community entered homelessness in that community. And I wouldn't just say a simple majority. I know the statistics are that it's a super majority, right, of people. So the people we constantly see in Encinitas, many of whom we know by name, right? Those people entered homelessness in Encinitas. And so a majority of them call this their home long before they entered homelessness and in their homelessness. And they found a stability of routine and predictability, right? Are we meant to live outside? No, right? Have some people experience such trauma and loss in their life that once they get to a place where they know where to get food and where they know we're going to sleep that night, that they don't want to mess with it anymore because they're afraid of that getting lost? Absolutely. And so the majority of unsheltered neighbors we see are our neighbors. They've lived here for a long time. And so those are the big three things I wanted to take time to point out about our unsheltered homeless. CRC, we do work with the city of Encinitas on a project called Opening Doors, where we see direct City of Encinitas general funds. And that is to work and help our unsheltered Encinitans get permanently placed in housing. That funding source is about $150,000 a year. And we regularly exceed the goals of placements with that funding source. City of Encinitas also has CDBG funding that they facilitate through HUD. And that also funds programs that we do around rapid rehousing and homeless intervention. And we also have a huge amount of private support. About 45% of our total operating budget comes from government funding sources, 40% comes from private funding sources, major donors, direct mail, fundraising events, et cetera, and then 15 from our resale stores. And so private funding is very involved in the support of our programs, especially the Food and Nutrition Center. I would say that we are seeing more and more economically vulnerable people, people coming to us for emergency assistance for food. 2023 over 2022 was a 69% increase. That's like, help, I don't know where I'm going to get food today. And then a 42% overall increase in people coming to our Food and Nutrition Center. And the Food and Nutrition Center is really a leading indicator of the economic hardship. We're seeing the majority of those are seniors and working families who are coming to us for those kind of additional assistances. And so, that we do, last thing I'll say is we are aware of the challenge of working with people who are experiencing dual diagnosis issues in their lives. Last year, we piloted and we had seed funding from the Lucky Duck Foundation, and then also a family foundation in San Francisco called the Great House Family Foundation. And we hired a dual diagnosis clinician who specifically works with our dual diagnosis clients. And the key there is making sure there's supportive intervention and care for somebody, especially after they're housed, because everybody knows in this room, there's going to be a day when we eat glass and it's going to be a hard day. Having a dual diagnosis clinician in place for when one of our clients who's been working through their issues, when they have a day that eat glass, having somebody call so they don't revert to old coping mechanisms is very helpful. And it helps them through the day and keeps them in stable housing. And that gave way to and preceded us being awarded a trauma recovery center. It's funding from the California Victims Compensation Board. There are 18 trauma recovery centers in the state of California. There are 55 in the nation. CRC is one of those, and it addresses people who've experienced trauma, and our focus is assertive outreach and engagement with our unsheltered population. And so our dual diagnosis clinician is partnered in there We've added 2 other clinicians with that, as well as 2 outreach worker. And on contract, we have a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And so we're now able to take interventions beyond just the therapeutic counseling. We're able to take them into medical modalities where we can help provide that kind of intervention. To my knowledge, it's the only trauma recovery center focused on that kind of intervention and engagement with our unsheltered population. The other 2 in San Diego are Palomar Health has one for a sexual response unit, and they have a forensic whole lab at One Safe Place in San Marcos, the Family Justice Center, and then Rady Children's has a trauma recovery center. So really proud of that and our ability to keep going deeper with people and adding those interventions. That's probably, yeah.
this is Sherry coming from above. I just wanted to let you know I'm homesick. That's why I'm not there with you. And Corrine is also home at her home sick. So we both apologize for not being there with you. Just wanted to put that on the record.
Should we take some questions if anybody has some real quick, just a few? No questions?
Well, I just want to commend you because what you're doing is extremely important and it is making a difference. Just yesterday at Rotary, we had someone from Doors of Change. We've had them before. I actually started donating to them years ago because they help young people between the ages of 17 and 25, one of the most neglected group there is in our country. And they help them find homes. Homeless kids is basically what they are, homeless young people. But they were talking about the importance. It's so valuable that you've gotten these medical resources available to them and psychological resources available to them, because you can't change something unless you change and are willing to do it. So thank you so much for all you're doing.
That actually leads, I had a question. You mentioned a lot of these are people that have been here for a long time before they were homeless. Can you give a little demographic? Are they mainly seniors, or are they kids that the parents kick out, or what does that component look like?
So most of them are adults. This is we have such a broad category of ages that we're working to break it down, because we go 18 to like 60, right? And then 61, it's like that. And it's like, we can do better than that, because and so, but a majority of them are at least 45 and older. A majority of the people we see the most are are women, so we do see some younger people, and I say this with love and a little bit. Some younger people are on their surf pilgrimage, and they're kind of doing that life, and they may be young at heart people as well, doing their surf pilgrimage, and when push comes to shove, they have a place to go back to. And then there are some younger people in our community who are displaced from home for a variety of reasons. And so, or are aged out foster, but there have been great programs in the county of San Diego that really are targeting age out foster kids. Just in Time for Youth, the Y has beefed up its support and service of those kids. This program,
Doors of Change and Reality Change.
Yeah, reality. So there have been some great programs there. But most of them adults.
Yeah.
I can add, one of our staff members did the point in time count, and she was up at the safe parking lot, and she went home just emotionally devastated because she said they were almost all seniors over 70. It just really made it real for her because of their age and how vulnerable they were.
Yeah, Social Security is
When you say the people you see, are you talking about food pantry, counseling, everything?
I was
Suspect they're different
assuming-
demographics, right, depending on which you're talking about.
I was assuming it was around our unsheltered and our homeless population, so I was really talking about our homeless population.
Okay. And so out of the homeless population that you see, are those people that are seeking help? Or have they been routed to you through Hope Team, police action? My thought is that quite a few of the homeless we have are, or at least a significant quadrant, and homeless is a huge spectrum, right, as you described. But CRC is gonna see a certain group of that, probably the ones more seeking help, more seeking food, although you probably overlap. That's why my question about food versus counseling.
Yeah, we, between the county work, the city's work, JFS and Safe Parking and CRC and even the PATH outreach workers who've been, we know the same people. So our unsheltered population, it is a wide spectrum of stories, right? As unique as each individual. Most of the folks who are experiencing chronic homelessness, they know we're there. We are, there's coaching, leading conversations, asking about next steps. There have been people on the threshold of walking through the door and they get terrified about having to deal with stuff and losing what they do have and the security they know. So some of the folks who are chronically homeless, it goes back, whatever trauma, whatever got them to today, losing what they have today is more terrifying to them than the promise of being in a stable home. And that's the long-term, that's the intervention work with the dual diagnosis clinician who's doing outreach and engagement and creating relationship and safety.
So the reason I went down that path is that I'm curious from a business standpoint, how many businesses are impacted by some of the, I'll call them sober group, right? The sober group is probably the easiest. They want help. They want to get back on their feet. They come to services like you, they come to the city, they, wherever, and they'll accept it. But in talking to Alpha Project, I've had extensive conversations there. He basically, Bob McElroy talks about unicorns, the drug addicted, the substance abusers with the dual diagnosis typically, that finding the ones that want help. He calls them unicorns. And I think that happens. And the impact to our business community and to our residents is not coming from the sober crowd, of the demographic. It's coming from the drug addicted, probably dual diagnosis groups in the defecating in public, camping in public spaces, taking them over, acting out, as you talked about. And so my focus has been how do we work on those? Because I think if we get that solved, the ones that want help, come get help. The ones that don't want help and are fearful of walking through the front door, that's where I want to see. And I don't see the rubber meeting, the progress there like I would like to. And I totally agree with your numbers, by the way, on point in time count. They have varied from 135 to 60 and been typically around the 80 number you said for the San Diego area for 10 years. It's a great graph if you look at it. I think it ought to lead in our next homeless action plan review. We ought to always be looking at, because I think everything you said, John, was right on there.
Yeah, the thing, like, and part of when we have people camped in front doors, right, and those kind of things, there are some healthy do's and don'ts for businesses, right? Don't ever do what you feel uncomfortable or unsure about, right? Do remember that the person in your door is a human being with a name. Oftentimes, an easy conversation can start with, "Hi, my name is John. What's your name?" Right? And quickly people can sort out from there, what's up, right? And kind of like, hey, back off. Do call law enforcement when there is a crime and an issue, involving the safety of yourself, others, property, and damage, right? And not everybody like camping in one of the sit outs on, Main Street, right? One of the little carve outs and sitting there, that's not against the law. It's inconvenient, it's uncomfortable, but it's not against the law. Behaving, acting out, doing lewd things, inappropriate things, right? That's when, if someone's just kind of yelling at the wind, that's a great moment for the Hope team to show up. Right, because they've got training in de-escalation and engagement with people, and they probably know the person. And so there are some good do's and don'ts for businesses as we engage with people who are in those moments. Yeah, and then I had a conversation with a couple years ago with Bobby at the 7-Eleven. And he was having some issues, and it was summer. And, the other thing I think it's important is applying the same principle of service that we would to anybody, right? Someone has said, will you serve people who come to you drunk for food? It's like, absolutely. Just like death by tequila, just like union, right? Just like, of course, right? Oh, sorry. And then, but will we deal with behavior issues? Absolutely. And so I think working with people in those moments and dealing with as they come up is an important part of that kind of engagement. Sorry about that.
Thank you, John. Yeah, we still have quite a few.
I have
to
a
go
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hi, thanks for your presentation and the work you're doing. I am very familiar with homelessness. I have 2 relatives who are homeless, so I'm not just someone in Encinitas with an opinion. But I have to say, I have seen an increase in homelessness, and it's not the CRC's fault. But I think everybody recognizes that California has failed to do a good job and wasted billions of dollars trying to solve the homelessness problem. And I just want to make sure that my town doesn't, despite all the Herculean efforts, that we too don't fail in our approach and get more of what we're trying to reduce. And one of the things I have noticed in looking at all these numbers thrown around, including on your website of like 11,000 people that were served in 2022. And that's like 900 car trips a day or people on foot coming to our downtown to be served. And I'm finding between those numbers and the PIT numbers, I think the city has discussed in the past that we don't really track the numbers. And the charities aren't exactly tracking the numbers completely either. And so it's hard to scope how big the problem is. And that was one of the last homeless solution managers' jobs, was to put together a database for the city of Encinitas and track these numbers both from the charities and from the sheriff department. So we've got all these numbers all over, and even last year it took 6 months to get the point in time count numbers. So I'm just kind of putting out there that it does not seem clear really what these numbers are. And if they are increasing, because I think most people I know are seeing increases in numbers, and we know that a lot of the people got kicked out of downtown and living on the street when they enforced their homeless camping ban in the city of San Diego. So those people are on the move, and they're going where they can get away with sleeping and camping. So it is a problem for Encinitas, and it is a growing problem. I don't think it's mythological. And I don't mean to argue with you. I'm just saying, let's put all the facts out on the table. There's more people in Encinitas. I see them daily. I live at the beach. So I'm hoping, Allison, too, that, and the people from the city here, that we really get it together in terms of these databases that have been discussed for a long time. We get all the numbers together, and we really can see what the true numbers are and work accordingly. Because I know the city's lofty goal is to reduce homelessness, and at the same time, a lot of the homeless providers is to increase their services. And so those two things seem to butt heads when we're partners in this. So
Yeah, so I would just respond. Total number of people served includes people who are sheltered. And we do work with homelessness prevention to make sure people don't become homeless. And so a lot of the economic and social interventions, the increase in numbers of people we've seen are people who aren't homeless yet. And we don't want them to get there because the slide into is dramatic and the exponential crawl out is even steeper when somebody does enter homelessness. So from CRC's perspective, it's the total number of people we serve, not just our unsheltered neighbor.
And those are the numbers that I think are not completely clear, including where these people come from. Are these regional numbers? Are they local numbers? And that's part of my point.
That's our total service area. And then to the other point, we agree.
What's your total service area?
Uh,
You said that?
North County, so we serve people from Del Mar. We've got office in San Marcos at One Safe Place and an office in Carlsbad. So when we do our annual report, that's everybody we serve, not just Encinitas residents. We could dial down. Then the other thing I would say is we join you, and we've done, and I know there's been with my staff and with Stephen and this movement on dialogue on a by name list, right? And case conferencing with the providers who are in town, absolutely. That will demystify the number of unsheltered homeless versus the other folks who we serve to keep them from becoming unsheltered.
So we've got a schedule and we've got a lot of people we need to get through in 16 minutes, 15 minutes. So can we?
Thank you.
Sorry to cut you off here, but Congressman Levens, Representative Shannon, are you on or?
Kyle here, Shannon's out today.
Okay, great. Do you have
Hi,
a quick
everybody.
update, very quick?
Okay, I'll try to be real brief. And so I'm sure you all heard about the exciting news about the Army Corps special, sand replenishment project going underway. So obviously the congressman was really excited to fight for $30.5 million to get that project finally off the ground after 20 years. And so once they're done in Solana Beach, they're going to start dredging and putting sand on Beacons Beach here in Encinitas, 340,000 cubic yards, and that'll repeat every 5 years for the next 50 years. So real big game changer for our coastal erosion. Last week, Congressman announced a grant of $53.8 million that he helped secure for NCTD for the San Diego Railroad Bridge replacement. Very important 108-year-old bridge. It'll allow the double tracking through the San Diego Lagoon at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. The project also includes a special events platform there at the Del Mar Fair so that we can take the train to get to the fair and the races. It's also important because that's the first step in relocating the rail in Del Mar. This project, the rail line, this is the entree to what could be the tunnels or some other relocation of the rail tracks off the bluffs. Really exciting thing that I'd like to point you all to is a new map that we unveiled. It's an interactive map of all the federal projects that have been funded by that Congressman Levin has delivered for every city in our district. It's the first of a kind among congressional offices, so we're really excited. Shows the projects that total over $835 million that Congressman Levin has delivered in the last 5 years. 51 million for projects in Encinitas, including Leucadia, drainage improvements, which we all know is so important, especially with the rains that are happening right now in the El Nino. That map is available at levin.house.gov/map. levin.house.gov/map. And I'll just mention one last thing is that the congressman introduced a new bill last month called the Veteran Hunger Coordination Act. It was introduced with Republican Derek Van Orden of Wisconsin. The sad reality is that a lot of our low-income veterans are less likely to actually participate in nutrition programs like SNAP than the overall low-income population. So this bill would actually connect those veterans with these programs so they get that vital nutritional assistance. So we can get one more step closer to having no veteran or anybody who's ever served our country struggle to feed themselves or their families. So that's it for me.
And we've got Francine for Catherine Blakespeare's office.
Okay, the senator is continuing her leadership as the chair of the Lausanne Rail Resiliency Corridor. She was with Congressman Levin last week when they made big announcements about federal funding, but her big goal in the state is to try to bring the many people who are involved in operations of this 351-mile corridor together so that they're coordinated and can work together. You know, there was another bluff failure last week and the train is closed, the tracks are closed again. She has a robust legislative portfolio that she's going to be introducing as we go along. And so far, she's introduced three different bills. One is for lactation in courthouses so that attorneys can take a break when they need to from their proceedings, if they need to pump breast milk. Another one is streamlining bike lane projects in coastal cities to eliminate some of the time that it takes and some of the bureaucratic restrictions. And another one is low income housing, and it's going to require cities and counties to have a plan to provide homeless serving housing to the number of unhoused people tallied at an annual point of time count, and submit a report to update a plan annually and post it on their website. So again, addressing, I think, trying to quantify more than anything, the number of people needing housing in their cities and in the county. And then just yesterday, or the day before, she was in a press conference. She is going to be co-authoring an assembly bill to repeal the income-based charge of utility bills that have really been a lot of people calling in our office about. She just wants you to know that the state is addressing the budget that the governor estimates to be $38 billion, and they will come up with a balanced budget, and they're hoping to try to make it as painless as possible through reducing costs and also going to the rainy day fund that they have available to them. She has, if you want to keep up, if you're not on it already, we encourage you to subscribe to her newsletter, where she will continue to introduce her bills and other activities. She actually started a California book club. Those of you, if you are involved in book clubs or know anybody, they're going to be reading books that are related to California. The first meeting was very successful. And she's starting to accept nominations. I'll get the link out to you for Women Who Inspire, who will be honored during Women's Month in March.
Thank you, Francine.
Oh, quick question, can you?
We really don't have time, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
really?
Yeah, we've got 10
I'll
minutes to
ask
get a lot
after,
of people.
thanks.
Tasha's representative on,
Right here, Ross Tritt. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. Hope you're all staying safe and warm in this weather. I'll begin with the Assembly member's new committee assignments. She now serves on the Higher Education Committee, the Emergency Response Committee, and the Public Employees and Retirement Committee. Additionally, she continues to hold her leadership position as the Chair of Communications and Conveyance, and remains a dedicated member on the Military and Veterans Affairs Committee, but she no longer serves on health or local government committees. And in terms of legislative initiatives, the Assembly member has been actively reintroducing bills on the floor. Last week, AB 1992, previously known as AB 45, was reintroduced, and this bill aims to empower the California Coastal Commission to incorporate blue carbon demonstration projects into its considerations for coastal development permits. And a fun fact about this is that Encinitas actually inspired this bill, and more specifically, the successful expansion of the I-5 freeway through the San Elijo Lagoon by Caltrans. The Assembly member is using that as best practice for this. And looking ahead, the Assembly member is set to reintroduce AB 530 next week. And this is the e-bike licensing bill, which will no longer be called AB 530, but it's still the same bill. And it will establish regulations like prohibiting people under 12 from riding e-bikes, and also implement licensing requirements for people without driver license. And it will also establish local diversion and community service programs as an alternative to ticketing riders without licenses. And lastly, on a different note, our office is now accepting nominations for the annual Women of Impact Awards. And the Assembly member organizes this every year during Women's History Month. And the goal is to recognize exceptional women in our district. And there are 9 different categories, which I won't go over every single one of them, but I do want to note that there is a business and entrepreneurship category. And I expect that the Chamber of Commerce will have some good nominations for that. And to be eligible, you just it just needs to be a woman who lives, works, attends schools, or volunteers in our district. And you can submit your nomination on the Assembly members website until March 1st. And the actual award ceremony is for March 16th. And yeah, that concludes my report.
Thank you. County Cipriano, are you online? From Supervisor Terry Lawson, Rimmer? Oh, okay. County Assessor Jordan Marks, are you? Nope. We've already heard from Allison. San Diego Board of Education. How about Encinitas?
Yes, I'm
Board of
here.
Education?
I won't take up much time. I just will share some positive things with you because everything's positive in the school district. We're really blessed to be part of this school district. But our kids are right now participating in kindness and inclusion activities and abilities awareness. So it's been a great opportunity for our PTAs and our special ed parents and everybody to work together to plan all these activities. Kids are doing things like learning how to sign their name in ASL and how to write name tags and badges in Braille and just learn how to communicate via iPads and that kind of thing. So they're learning more about what it's like to be a child or a person with special needs. We're really close to the final stages of our new strategic plan, which is a framework for the future. And it's built on a very collaborative effort of, we took input from, we have committees that meet regularly that are providing input. Their teachers, their administrators, their parents, community members, so it's been very valuable. And finally, we're in the throes of beginning to update our facilities plan because we are going to have a bond in fall of 2024.
Oh, thank you. Joe, SDG&E.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Joe Gabalda, SDG&E. Got 3 quick bullet points. One, we're all staffed up, ready for these weather events, and we also have an app, SDG&E Weather, that you can download to keep track of the information, the equipment, the technology, and reports from our meteorologists on staff to help us operate and prepare for adverse weather conditions. We are very active in the South County with those folks who were impacted by last week's weather events. And as you may be aware, during these extreme events, we often work with the county to discontinue billing for someone who's been displaced. We will work with them to wherever they go. If there's billing plans that need to be set up after the event, we can work with them too. And then lastly, on the bill that was proposed yesterday about utility rates, the original bill was AB 205, which was passed as a part of the governor's budget. He is supportive of this in that it recognizes the state has aggressive sustainability goals. How are we going to get low-income individuals to have equitable rates at the same time as they work towards conversions, coming up, retrofitting their houses and that kind of thing. At the crux of the issue is for solar customers. This was a fix that was worked on in that the solar customers were not paying for substation transformers and wires. The bill and a prior decision also helped us to set up this equity-based proposal that the current PUC is evaluating. So it has 2 sides to it. We certainly have the sustainability goals, but we also have equity issues that need to be addressed holistically. And that's my report.
Okay. Miracosta, Kristen, are you there?
I am. I will keep it incredibly short. It's great to see everybody. Miracle, so we are back in the spring session. So we started last week and moving forward. We will be collaborating with Senator Blake Spear's office as well as San Diego schools to be able to host various events. And if you haven't already, on Saturday, come out and enjoy the Cardiff Market. And there's tons of tasty foods. So bring a large bag. And don't come hungry because then you'll end up getting everything, which is the point of it. So come hungry. Great to see everyone.
SBDC Cheryl Brown. Fire chief, I don't, are you
The training.
probably in their
He's in
training?
there.
Yeah.
Captain the Sheriff Lawrence, Captain Lawrence, I don't think he's on here. So-
Lieutenant Karen Mullins is on Zoom for him.
Oh, okay.
I'm here. I don't really have much more of an update than our meeting last month at the cottage.
Well, this is a new meeting, so this is more of a overall, a
Yep.
little larger audience, actually, hopefully.
Yeah, so I as far as the sheriff's department, we're still continuing to work with the city regarding what's going on right now with the weather, also into our unhoused population and making sure that we have the infrastructure in place and all our lines of communication open as we move through the, hopefully this storm that doesn't stay as long as everyone expects it to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have 1 minute. You want to ask your quick
Yeah,
question?
wait, hey, Jim, can I give a 1 minute
Sure.
update on El Camino Real specific?
Yes.
I think this group would hear. We had the first meeting. I'm now on the subcommittee with Tony. We had our first meeting in over a year, so it was last in 2022, and we just had one. It is a completely redesigned and reduced El Camino Real specific plan. So no longer does the target center, anything that was in the Encinitas Ranch specific plan is no longer included. The mobile home park has also been pulled out, which I support immensely because if you rezone it, it would have gone away. It has been no rezoning and there's no residential where before they were talking about putting residential overlay across the entire thing. And the goal was not to rezone anything. So it's much simpler. It will not include a Prop A vote as a result. And it's mostly a streetscape type treatment of the corridor. So the plan is that we're gonna bring it back to the council. I think Tony and I are gonna meet one more subcommittee and then bring it back to the council as far as what we want to do.
So no more reduction of lanes.
That wasn't really even discussed at this point. We talked about the I'll call it streetscape treatment and trying to get the bike lanes separated and get the pedestrians separated. And there was some questions about whether there was enough room with the existing lanes. So, but look for a greatly reduced or different El Camino Real specific plan based on this meeting.
Thank you. Sherry wanted to say a few words.
I just want to thank you all again for coming. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but I don't think you want my germs. I also want to let you know of a couple of events we have coming up, which is our Health and Wellness Expo, which is February 10th. And then we have a State of the City, which is March 21st. So we hope to see you all at those. Also wanted to let you know that my office will be reaching out to you to get your reports. So please get those ready on your letterhead so we can post them on our website. This video will also be on the website. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Get well.
I'm sorry. we had to cut
Oh, it's
you off.
okay. Yeah, I'll just ask Francine.
Okay,
Thank you, Jim.
sure.
Francine, I was just curious what bill that was, the